Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Zoning Design Review Board meeting of Tuesday, August 9th. I'd like to call the meeting to order and roll call.
Great. Member Tigert?
Present.
Member Laz?
Here.
Vice Chair Dorman?
Here.
Chair Cook?
Here.
Let the record show that Member Allen is excused.
Thank you. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I'll move.
Second?
A second.
It's not working.
Just say it loud.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We will adopt the agenda as presented. Approval of the minutes. There were no attached minutes,
No minutes.
so we will skip that. Is there any public here tonight that would like to comment on items not on the agenda? No, so we will move on. Consent calendar? Anything? Nothing? Okay, we are on to our public hearings. The first one is 16-873, 2157 Madison.
Okay, so before we begin, we just need to talk about the two conflicts of interest.
Right.
So because I live close, I will recuse myself from this hearing.
Okay. And
And I
Member
will
Laz?
stay to hear this, so we have a quorum.
Great.
Yes. Great.
Right. Let's just note that we drew straws so that one of the conflicted members who had a conflict of interest would sit and that we'd have a quorum.
Right.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
With that being said.
Yes.
So before you tonight is design review for the removal of a rear second floor balcony and a 72 square foot addition to a second floor bedroom at 2157 Madison Street. This house is located on Madison Street right close to Washington Street in the Old Town Historic District. So the applicant really proposes three modifications to the residence. First, the garage previously was converted from a one-car garage to a habitable space by the previous owner. The applicant proposes to revert that space back into a garage in order to comply with the municipal code. Also, the rear second floor balcony, they are also proposing to remove. And then lastly, in the primary part of the project that requires design review, is that the only bedroom in the home is located above the garage and measures about 56 square feet, with a 39 square foot closet, totaling about 95 square feet. The code minimum for a bedroom is 70 square feet. The applicant proposes to extend this wall here. Shown here on the plans. Plans to extend that wall of the bedroom into the existing balcony by 5 feet to enlarge the room to 119 square feet. With a 48 square foot closet. The commonly accepted room standard for a bedroom with a queen bed or king bed is approximately 100 square feet. So the applicant proposes to make this as the only bedroom in the house, master bedroom of that 119 square footage. Now, in order to do this, as we talked about earlier, the current bedroom does not meet code, so there does need to be an expansion of some kind in order to bring that bedroom to code. In order to bring it to 119 square feet, as they're proposing, a variance is required. The house is currently 970 square feet with all the FAR exemptions already granted, like the garage and the various areas that are open to below on the second story. That leaves about 30 square feet that may be added to remain in compliance with the 1,000 square foot maximum FAR, the floor area. The proposed addition would bring the total area of the home to 1,042 square feet. Now, in order to exceed that 1,000 square foot requirement, certain findings need to be made in order to allow this variance. Town staff is of the opinion that this project is unique Because the standard bedroom size for a room with a queen or king bed is approximately 120 square feet, and whereas this proposed bedroom is the only one in the house and it will be about 119 square feet, a variance is necessary, and the staff report includes findings that staff wrote in order to justify this variance. The board now has the opportunity to discuss this project, ask questions of staff, as well as of the applicant who is here, in order to consider the findings there in the staff report. If you'd like, I can go over the findings.
Why don't we see if we have any questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Nathan. Karen, do you have any questions of staff?
Do you not?
Gary?
So I have two questions that, and I don't know if you can hear this or not, but,
I can.
okay. I have two questions that I think apply to both projects, so I'll just ask them now. One is, I just want to make sure in the conditions of approval, it's the site to the new, or how will that work if the new ordinance is passed between, the new noise ordinance is passed between now and when the project begins? Is it like as amended, or is it as current when the project starts?
Yeah, the conditions here actually reflect the new requirements of 9 to 6. And when it comes to conditions of approval, the noise ordinance is written for things that don't require permits, and it's just noise in general. Conditions of approval, I guess, would trump that, saying what does it say in the conditions, and that's what they need to abide to. So that's why it's included the soon-to-be fully adopted noise ordinance standards.
Thank you, I just want to make sure. And then the other one is, I think we have a public art ordinance now. Is this project captured by,
For commercial projects.
so commercial only, no residential? Okay. And then I'd like to hear from the applicant when they come up, sort of the history of how they bought the house with the small bedroom and kind of what has happened in your mind, and then I probably will have some more questions, but none of staff. Thank you.
Okay. I don't have any questions, so we can move on to the applicant or the architect. Would they like to step up?
We just ask that you state your name before.
My name is Wayne Weckler, architect.
And Mimi Shaw, I'm the homeowner, as well as my husband, Richard Shaw. And we purchased the home in February of this year. And we fell in love with the home very briefly during a visit here and proceeded with the purchase of it. From there, when we came to visit, we had a much better idea of what we were dealing with when we looked at the home for a site and said, boy, wouldn't it be nice to be able to expand this into a real bedroom? This is odd that there's such large walk-in closet with not a bedroom there. There's a room for a chair. And so we looked at the home with pictures during the staging, when it was staged by the realtor. So they had a bedroom and an open loft area. So we thought, well, at least we'll have that to use for when our boys come with us. We have a 21-year-old and or a 22-year-old, just turned 22, and a 16-year-old. So we thought we would have that space for our boys to be in the loft, and then we would convert this area to an area where we can close the door, because it's very open architecture. And so right now, everything is open to the area below. So by expanding this bedroom into a real bedroom, because it's not today, it would give us the ability to put a door on and separate from when our boys come with us to visit.
So in the project, we want to convert the garage back into a garage to meet code. Currently, the downstairs shower is accessible from the garage. So we want to make it accessible from the house instead of the garage. And currently the access to the garage is through the bathroom. So we want to change it so that the access leads into the kitchen instead of through the bathroom. So that's part of this project. All of that is to clean up the existing architecture and make it properly working. Upstairs, it's the same problem where the bedroom is just too small to work. It doesn't even meet code minimums as a bedroom. And although it's a nice sized closet, there's not a lot of closet space in the house. The only other upstairs closet is in the laundry area, and so its primary use is to support the laundry servicing. So in this plan, we would be making the closet a little bit smaller, but the bedroom bigger, so that it could serve as a master bedroom, although it would still be a very small one.
And
Okay.
You can see the door that would be added there to close off the bedroom while still keeping with the open architecture for the rest of the home. So we're not changing the architecture. We really love the way it looks today. Just trying to make it more practical.
Okay. Karen? No questions? Carrie?
I have no questions of the applicant, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I thought you did. Okay. So was consideration made into making what is now currently labeled the family room into the master bedroom so that you wouldn't have to ask for a variance?
Yes, we did look at that. This room is still the family room, under 10 feet across, so we would still be quite limited in size, and the only place to put a closet, which is required by code, would block out one of the side windows. So we felt that to not influence the desirable architecture, it made more sense to try to expand the bedroom that was already too small rather than to change the family room, which is a nice space now, but it's totally open to the rest of the house and doesn't have a closet, so it really doesn't function as a bedroom. Walking through the property, the front balcony area is 9.5 feet, so it's a pretty big, generous balcony area for the full width of the house. So we thought that, well, we could still have a balcony in the front by just reducing some of its size, and that would help the bedroom out. So in this project, both upstairs and downstairs, it was really the northern end of the project towards the bottom of the sheet that was not working properly. The rest of the house we'd actually like to leave alone.
Okay. Okay, if nobody has any more questions of the architect and the applicant, then you can have a seat.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public here to speak on this project? Okay, thank you. Then we will discuss it. Karen, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't affect, from a far perspective, it doesn't affect the appearance and the massing of it, and I think we should just, I think it should be approved. We should let the variance go.
Okay, Carrie?
I agree with Karen. I don't think it will affect the massing of it. My concern is when we look at the findings that are necessary for a variance, excuse me, it has to be exceptional or extraordinary circumstances. It has to be circumstances not created attributable to the applicant or the owner, and result in practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship. It cannot constitute a grant of special privilege. It must be necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of the right of the property. I have concerns about making that finding.
Which part?
I'm just not sure that, and I'm certainly, as always, open to discussion, but when we are looking at things like exceptional or extraordinary, and it's sort of, to me, when it says not created or attributable to the applicant or owner, that means it kind of was not known. It was, you know, there was nothing that could be done about it. And all these, of course, are open to interpretation, but I would just appreciate some discussion and edification on those, because it seems to me that, I think the closet is actually getting larger. I think the staff report says the closet's going from 39 to 48, which I realize is not that many square feet, 11 square feet, but when we're talking about a variance, we'd like for it to be as small as possible. My thought on it was maybe to take in less of the balcony and then not have to have a variance, but again, I'm open to thoughts and discussion.
I have to say, Carrie, that I agree 100%. When I read the findings of applying exceptional or extraordinary circumstances, I don't see that. When it says that the circumstances were not created or attributable to the applicant or owner, I don't agree with that either, because it was this way when it was purchased. I understand the need to want to make a bedroom that will fit a bed. That makes perfect sense. But that's why I was asking about, had you considered using the family room and maybe filling in that open to below space to get what you need, because I can't agree with the circumstances of it being extraordinary. I don't see how that applies, and it does seem like it's a special privilege to grant an exception in this case.
You mean granting an extra the extra 42 square feet?
I know, it's minor, but where do you stop? If you grant everybody that comes and asks for an extra 10%, 20%, or 5%.
I think there's a little bit of a unique situation with this, in that when they purchased the home, it really was not up to code. And with the garage being not even a garage, but more so the bedroom not being up to the standard of what it needs to be at. And I guess it kind of rings a little bit true that if they're going to go through all this work and financial, impact to make the house more livable, I just don't think the variance is.
But
I think it's specific to the property. I mean, this home, I don't see it setting a precedence where now we have to say, okay, every variance that comes in, it doesn't have to be a unique situation. I think it's a pretty unique situation, I guess, for this house, especially the limitation that the size and the scope of it.
Even though the limitations were known?
I don't know if the limitations were known, but that would be their responsibility to know, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie?
So if they didn't increase the size of the balcony, so if they didn't, they could lose some of the balcony and still remain within the FAR and not need a variance, right?
I think they have 30 feet,
Okay.
30 square feet. So that's only 3 feet instead of what they're taking. 7.
Instead of 5. No.
So it's not that big, but I find,
They want to gain 5 feet, right?
Yeah.
In depth. And without a variance, they could gain 3.
yeah.
Is that right?
Is that right?
Yep.
That sounds right.
I like that.
I know, it seems minor.
Is the balcony 14 and a half?
I'm just looking
almost
off of that.
15 feet wide, the balcony?
I think it's 9.5.
Oh, 9.5, okay.
They're taking 5.
You can provide the math, probably.
14 1410, the balcony width?
Oh, on the outside.
Oh, on the outside.
Oh, right. Sorry.
1410's right there.
Oh, a little over 14.
I'd just like to share how staff analyzed it for your benefit. In determining whether there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances, we're looking specifically at the facts here. The size of the lot, it's one of the few parcels in town that are under 4,000 square feet. And what we viewed as unique was that this was the only bedroom. So a similar condition or a precedent setting would be to have a master bedroom of a certain size where it's the only bedroom on a property that is small of this nature. It's a part of what we looked at.
It's a good, I mean, it's a good point.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the concern is the precedent-setting effect for a variance fairly. But when you're looking at, I think we looked at there are 10 parcels in Old Town that are 4,000 square
Or
feet or
less.
less. We don't always know the condition of those properties, but many of them have been recently constructed, so we know they have one or more bedrooms, so it takes them out of consideration for making a similar finding. We don't know the condition of all those properties, so I don't know if there's another property with just one bedroom that doesn't meet the code minimum for the 70 square feet. And that 70 square feet really only fits a twin bed. So we really felt like these were unique circumstances. And that's all I'm
Okay.
sharing with you.
Okay, that's good.
Could I make
Sure. Come up, back up to the microphone, please.
Wayne Weckler, just to address one of your concerns, you're saying that we could build in the open space to down below.
Or use space that's available without going to a variance.
Right. If we use that space, though, it does affect our math. So currently, we're excluding that space. Technically, if we use that space, it would be an addition to the
30,
house.
you have 30 feet
Yes.
to use, to
Right.
spare,
So-
without
so-
going to the
So
variance.
we'd be limited
Right.
there.
Right. Okay, thank you. Carrie, what are you thinking? Or do you want to make a motion?
Well, I'd like to just talk a little bit more about and let me just say, I have a magnet on my refrigerator that says, "I dream of storage space." So, I mean, I want to do this, but we do have to find the unique circumstances, and I think staff has been persuasive in that this is a one-bedroom home and probably an outlier of most homes in that regard. But I don't think we should get into a finding that talks about the expenditure of funds to add 30 feet versus,
Right.
and we're actually adding 72 or 74 feet. I don't think that we should get into that as a justification or a reason for a variance, my personal opinion on that. And I would like to see the findings be more succinct to say, we believe this is one of less than 10 homes. It only has one bedroom. We were not aware of it. Now we are. It's coming to code. Some of those kinds of things, I could then go with it. I think we just really need to pin down that this is not a special privilege, that this is really a one-off deal.
It's a unique situation, is what you're saying, right?
And
It's a unique lot.
Tell why. I
Right.
mean, really be specific that we are doing this only because of A, B, and C.
Okay.
Particularly with finding B
Yes.
in the staff report.
I really kind of think with all of them that I'd just like to spell out, we discussed it, and this is a one-shot deal, and we're doing it for these reasons. But, I mean, that's up to my colleagues on
No,
what they
I
want to
think
spell out or
that,
not.
I think
but-
that makes sense, because I don't think taking cost into it as a finding is legitimate either. I agree. So is that okay? You guys comfortable making those changes? Okay, does somebody want to make a motion? One of you two?
Carrie.
Carrie?
Okay, I move, we approve the conditions of approval and the design, the proposed design, with changes to the findings supporting a variance as we've discussed here today.
That works.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No one. So, it passed. Thank you for being patient with us.
Welcome.
And you can check with Sandra in the morning.
We'll follow up with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we have Mikhail back.
This is her side.
Okay, moving on to item 16-869. I will have to recuse myself because this is my house. So, Vice Chair Carey, if you would take over. Do you want to change?
And if you'd like, you can sit in.
Here. Because I don't think that's, I don't think that's actually working.
Getting your
I don't
Beyonce
think
on.
it's amplifying.
It's like
My
karaoke though.
chance at fame.
I know.
My mic's not
So
working.
you can sit
You can sit in either of those
Mark's
chairs. I should have
Picked it up.
done
I'm like, I
that.
don't know what she's doing about it. It's like a skit.
Story of my life.
2 seconds.
Okay, so we'll wait for the applicant / board member to clear the room. So what we have here is a design review for exterior modifications to a single-family residence at 10 Redwood Drive, owned by Kimberly and Steve Cook. And Chair Cook has recused and excused herself, so I think we are ready to receive the staff report, please. Sorry, one more thing. Before we start, I'd like to make a statement, and I guess it's a disclosure, but not exactly. I don't feel conflicted out. I don't believe I am in violation of any conflict of interest, but I will say that the Cooks and my spouse and I have seen one another socially. We have done some things through the Arts Commission together, but that will not bias me in any way here this evening. Thank you. Sorry.
Good. Good evening. Tonight you have before you design review for this residence in Washington Park, and it's a subdivision of approximately 90 homes, all of which have a similar farmhouse aesthetic. You can see the existing residence here on the left of this slide, and some of the themes and materials used in the neighborhood are hipped front porches, the horizontal siding, comp shingle roofing, and windows that have a divided light appearance, big front porches. And the applicant is proposing to make some modifications that are more modern in appearance for a modern farmhouse aesthetic that really maintains the essential elements of the home but adds these new elements. And I'll just touch on some of these that really change the flavor the most. One is that they are proposing to remove the hipped front porch cover and replace that with a flat roof with a Corten steel fascia and with a second floor balcony above with steel cabling, and to add shed roof lines or awning roof lines over the windows, one in the front and one in the rear, and this will be with a standing seam metal roof in a dark color. The roof itself will be replaced with a standing seam roof in a metal color. One of the more significant changes is the use of natural cedar siding to replace the horizontal hardy board that's on the building in the location of the front porch alcove and for the front door, as well as the garage door. And so those changes really flavor the look of the building from the front elevation. Rear improvements are proposed as well. Since these are visible from the park, they're noted in the staff report as well, and these essentially replace the rear sliding glass door with more of a window wall that's a focal point so they can enjoy the backyard. Again, the use of the the awning roof line over a window, and the whole building will be painted white. So we've reviewed it in context of the design review standards, for the context of the neighborhood, and whether it fits, and also in terms of the materials used and whether there's integrity as to form. And we believe that these conditions have been met. We note that it is a more dramatic modification for the neighborhood, especially in the sense that most of the buildings share such similar architectural features, but that these changes are consistent with the farmhouse aesthetic and really with the parcel itself, where they already have where they're already using the Corten steel and other elements. We have analyzed it in terms of FAR, since they're adding a second floor balcony, but a second floor balcony is an architectural feature that is exempt from FAR, so there's no change. We've also reviewed it in terms of privacy impacts for adding a second floor balcony and windows that might look in on a neighbor. This property is unique because it's the balcony faces a street and the adjoining park, and so no adjacent neighbors are directly impacted. I also note in the staff report that there are 3 view corridors through the neighborhood, but these changes or the addition do not impact that. The corridor is still maintained. And so we've really looked at this on a case-by-case basis to find that this is consistent with the code. It may not apply to a similar request by a neighbor to make these changes if the condition is not the same. And I even note how on Forester Lane, those buildings were kept at a 1-story height to maintain the view corridor, so something like a rooftop deck may impact that in a negative manner. So we are recommending approval subject to the conditions in the staff report, and I know the applicant and the architect are here as well to represent their project.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Mikkel?
No.
Karen? So am I correct that no variance would be necessary for us to approve this?
That is correct.
And when the staff report references design ordinance, is that chapter 18?
It is, yes.
So the entire chapter. Is there anything in there specifically that refers to mixed residential? I mean, is there anything that says it? I've seen the ones about the setbacks and things like that, but is there anything that talks about the actual architecture of it?
No, there isn't.
Other than the general overview of harmony. And do you have any idea how many homes in this neighborhood have been updated since I think they were built, was it in the 80s?
Yeah. No, I couldn't give you numbers, but we've seen many changes in garage doors, including those that have the windows or lights above. There have been changes to painting, certainly, to light fixtures, to front porches, to fencing. So there are changes being made. These are certainly more dramatic, but nothing rules them out as long as they're consistent with the neighborhood and consistent with the design ordinance.
And have the neighbors been consulted, and this might be better for the applicant, have the neighbors been consulted about the balcony or the other changes proposed?
I can't speak to that, but we did send a notice of public hearing to a 300-foot radius, and we haven't heard back from any neighbors.
And do you know how deep the awning will be, the proposed awnings?
The shed awning over the roof or over the windows?
3 foot or a 5 foot or?
You know, I don't have the drawings in front of me, so I'll have to defer to the
when they come.
applicant.
Okay. That's all I have right now. No questions for staff? Okay, if we could hear from the applicant and the architect, if you all would like to make a statement.
Hi, I'm Steve Cook. Speaking to your question about consulting the neighbors, I did take the plans and the drawings through the neighbors that are adjoining, both south, which is offset from the park, she's quite a far away, our neighbors across the street, and both around the corner, and asked about what they thought of particularly the balcony part of it, or the privacy part. And our neighbor is really the park, and straight across the street looks into their garage or kitchen. It's not a private space, backyard, or patio. And if you look at the pictures, we already have windows and sight lines from that same location anyway. So we're not really putting a space where we weren't already able to view the activities of their kitchen or driveway or whichever. We're not overhanging it. We don't see into a backyard. And our neighbor to the north, Billy Hewitt, our garage and then her garage before her house or patio. So there's almost the biggest offset you can get in site plans, in that our garages are Siamese and then it's the dwelling. So we don't have much of a issue there. And to the rear, for the changes we're doing to the back of with the glass windows on the wall, most of the glass that's additional there is below the fence and landscape line anyway. There's already 2 windows and a slider there, so we're not adding an area where we see out anymore. We see into our yard more, but we don't really see into the park or those other areas because it's on the floor line. But I'm really excited that Jared and his staff were able to come up with some way that we could kind of update the look of this house we've owned for 18 years, that still gives us a new fresh thing with it, and we're fall in love with it, but it's just kind of the next phase of it, and I think it's really cool. I'm really excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jared Denton with Signum Architecture, live in town, actually almost within the 300-foot radius here. Did see the house constructed, I believe, in 1996 with O'Brien Group, and I'm actually very excited to see, after almost 20 years here, homeowners interested in updating and kind of seeing the transition of a neighborhood here. So this is a unique parcel, as Steve has mentioned and staff has mentioned. It does adjourn the Forester Park, and I think that the view balcony is nestled in quite nicely to a mature tree on the right-hand side there, as well as we're introducing some likely planted pots on the outside of that cable railing system. So I think that's going to tie well into the existing park. The Corten steel, as mentioned, kind of that fascia band running around the front of the porch, has precedence. Jack Chandler was the landscape architect a number of years ago, and so there's the Corten trellis as well as the Corten partial height landscape wall along the front, shown in the dashed lines there. So we're connecting the materiality of the existing fabric to this structure. I'll make two notes or corrections that the awnings that are existing above the second-story windows, those are not solid covered. Those will likely be either kind of an open trellis or a perforated member there. So allowing sunlight to filter through but not shine in directly at high noon. Another item to note, and it's hard to see within this plan, that the roof, the existing porch roof on the left-hand side of the entry door there, basically where the stacked 2-story dormer element is, that existing roof will remain. The reason why you can't see that is because of the new Corten fascia board that covers that. So we still are keeping the existing gutter system and roof drainage on that, but it's screened by the new Corten fascia there. The other interesting unique aspect about this home is that it has a very large rear yard, and again, it's next to Forester Park. So opening up a larger window wall in the back with the sliding doors really just helps create that indoor-outdoor feeling for the owners. When you're inside the house, the terrace in the back is actually lowered, and it is just a nice flow out to the existing rear landscape. I do have, it was noted that there was a dark color for the roof material, and I wanted to distribute. This is a material called a vintage. It's actually a painted Kynar finish from the factory. But what's unique about it is it has some module, it has some texture to it, similar to kind of an aged patina. So that's what's going to be likely on the roof for the standing seam. I'll also note that the standing seam is more in a residential scale, so anytime that I put standing seam on a residence, I like to have the standing ribs no more than about 1 5/8 inches. 1.5 inches is about as minimal as you can get. And also the ribs are brought in much closer, so typical spacing would be about a 16 to 18 inch. If you compare that to a commercial setting, you would more typically find a 30-inch spacing, 36-inch spacing, and sometimes the ribs are going up to about 2.5, 2 7/8. So again, keeping more in a residential scale, I think is important, and the color. So during the daylight, it doesn't have a lot of high reflectivity. And I think the use of the natural cedar is keeping with a farmhouse theme. So I think that's a nice interpretation that we're using. And a quick note is that that's on the park side. So for instance, the closest neighbor would be on the north side, and so from the neighbor's perspective, this house remains the same. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I'm pretty excited about the changes.
Any questions for
No.
the applicant or the architect? Just on the garage, the doors are going to be wood, the cedar,
Cedar as
correct?
well.
Similar to the main entry, if you.
Okay. And then the rest of the house is going to remain the hardy board, and it's going to be painted white.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other? Okay, thank you very much. Any members of the public here who wish to comment or talk about this item? Okay,
I
seeing none.
would
Oh,
like to mention that we received an email from Billy Hewitt supporting the project. And I'd meant to share that with you, but it was a positive recommendation.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
May I make a comment?
Of course, come on up to the mic and identify yourself, please.
I'm Mr. Strelo. I live on 5 Landy Way, and my property abuts the backyard of Mr. Cook. And I fully support what is being proposed. I am only now exposed to the idea, but any modernization helps our neighborhood, and it's certainly a very attractive design that would help to make the Forester Park even more attractive and pleasant. So I have no objections. I fully support the project as it is shown.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming this evening. Any other questions? Okay. Motion?
I move to approve as presented.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
I will go get Chair Cook.
Actually, I do have a question for,
Pardon?
not with that, but in general. In the past, we've seen paint chips and we've seen how, stains would be presented. Is that only because they voluntarily would like us to see that? It's not required that we see, like, if they're painting it white, we're not asking them what color white.
When a house is repainted, that's not part of the design review process. It is part of the review for a new home.
For new home, got it, okay.
Okay, moving on to presentations and discussions. All right, 16-820, about the general plan ad hoc committee.
Right, so rather than a presentation or discussion, it's more of just a quick action item. As you know, the general plan is coming up, the update to the general plan, and as part, there will be a 2x2 committee established with 2 members of the ZDRB and 2 members of the town council working together to kind of oversee this development of the general plan update. Now, there's also going to be a citizen group that works a little bit more into the details of what will be found in that plan. This 2x2 committee is more of the umbrella over that. I hope that makes sense. So what we need to do tonight is decide who the 2 ZDRB representatives will be on this 2x2 committee.
And what will this committee's job be? How far will they take it? How deep will they go? Just a general discussion?
All the
or
way.
all-
No, so the,
Scared us all off.
I know, I just did. So what this committee is, it's still being developed. What the general plan, what the shape of the general plan will be, and that's part of what this committee will do. Was to take a look at the upcoming schedule of speakers that will be coming to speak on the town regarding different general plan elements such as noise or open space or land use, and so they'll be working on those. It's also expected that they attend the various workshops where they can see draft policies and also the creation of these policies that will ultimately make it into the general plan, working in tandem with this citizen group.
Will they be, do you know if there'll be evening meetings or daytime meetings or?
Part of that will be determined on the makeup of the group.
Okay. And the speakers and such, are they responsible for selecting those speakers or somebody else is doing that? Okay.
They'll be working with town staff to do it.
Okay. It just sounds like a very daunting project because I know, I mean, it is a huge project to redo the general plan. And I think the amount of work required is a little frightening, but I also recognize how important it is and how good it is that for the ZDRB to have an input.
It is very important. Know that they're working alongside town staff. Staff isn't going to say,
Yeah, like,
so Karen, make our noise ordinance for us. That we're not going to be doing that. You will receive guidance the whole time.
what about in terms of the duration of, what is the goal for having this general plan revised and completed by? Are we talking 6 months, a year?
I
What
think
is
we're
it?
looking at hopefully a 2-year process for the update, maybe 2.5 years. And I think when we look at the 2x2 committee, we really look at this group of ZDRB and town council to kick off this process and to really help engage members of the community to attend these the speaker series and sort of the early on involvement in this group. At some point at about the 6-month mark, I see us transitioning to the Citizens Advisory Committee of people who have attended these meetings, the speaker series, and so there will be some sort of transition. Although we're still sort of working out what this whole process will be and what the involvement will be. Really looking for someone who's interested in being involved and getting the word out to other members of the community. That's what I can share at this point, really.
And this 2x2 committee will also help us all understand what this role of the citizen committee is going to be. What responsibilities are we giving them, and what responsibilities do we want to keep with the 2x2 committee? And so part of the fun of being on this committee is determining that.
And the town is hiring a firm to do the general plan, right? Or is it?
No, we're managing it in-house, and we'll have several different consultants working with us. We've identified a graphics firm and a group that's involved in master planning to do some of the early documentation, and then we'll be working with or identifying different consultants for the substantive elements rather than farming it out to a firm. Our idea is to have more involvement at staff level to make it more unique to Yountville and to really, come up with a document that's really going to suit this community better.
Right.
Because it's more of a hands-on procedure that way, let's say, there's more involvement for the community, the board members, the council, certainly staff.
It just becomes a challenge when, like we ran into with the sign ordinance, we had a way that we wanted to see it for the town. Lawyer says you can't do it that way. That gets difficult.
Well, in the general plan, you will be working under the law as well. We can't create things that are illegal.
But I mean, obviously it was.
But we
I
want
assume
something
it was
that is
created under the
Yountville
law
specific.
sometime. Oh, I agree. That's
Yeah.
good. Okay, end of questions. Sorry. I was just curious. Okay. Who would like to be on it?
Well, of course I would.
Of
'cause
course
I'm such
you
a
will.
nerd. I totally would.
Of course you would. You'd
But
be
y'all
good
may
at it.
say no, too much of a nerd.
Mikhail or Karen, any interest?
I would love to, but timing is not great for me.
I know
So
you'd be good on
I'm unfortunately going to have to pass.
it. Okay.
I think you would be great.
I think. I know.
do truly.
I find it.
Because you
I would
balance each
find
other.
it interesting. Very interesting to do.
Perfect.
I'm worried about the time, but I guess you do your best. And
Yeah, we can't give more concrete answers. I know,
Yeah.
I wish we could,
Yeah.
saying you'll be X number of hours per
I think
day.
you'll determine that as you go along. There's probably an ebb and flow to it, right?
yeah, and there's 2 nights a week when I can't do meetings, but
And we work, of course, with the schedule of the committee members to make that schedule.
And it's more a slow, steady pace. We're not going to have multiple meetings
Rushing to-
a week or a month even.
okay.
Slow and steady.
That's great.
At some point, do we re-elect a chair and a vice chair of this committee?
We do. I believe that happens in September.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right.
Great.
So that's it? No staff reports? Board
Can we do an
so-
official vote of that?
Okay.
You want to lead? Carrie and myself have volunteered to be on the General Plan Ad Hoc Committee.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Okay, great. That's all I need.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not good with those details.
You were great.
Okay. No staff and board reports. I move that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Off we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
We are still on, just so we know.